And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, we are going to go ahead and look at the NFL games that happened over Sunday and just recap week 15 so far and what happened, what the score was, and this, that, and the other, everything that you guys need to know. So we might as well go ahead and start off with the Giants getting absolutely pwned by the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson threw for 5 touchdowns in this game easily, completed 21 of his 25 passes. He threw for more touchdowns in this game, 5, than in completions, 4. Ridiculous stats, 290 passing yards of the day. He also was able to record 65 yards on the ground, averaged 10 yards per attempt, and on only 6 attempts. Derrick Henry ended up recording 67 yards on 14 attempts. Not as good as Lamar. I mean, this was Lamar's game, really. And obviously, Lamar Jackson, he wanted revenge on the Giants beating them a couple of years ago. And there he goes. The Giants, I will say, their quarterback situation is absolutely horrendous. I thought Daniel Jones was bad, but I didn't see Tommy DeVito play, and I did not see Tim Boyle play. They are arguably even worse. And that's very crazy to say. Like, the fact that saying that Daniel Jones is a better quarterback than Tim Boyle, or saying that Daniel Jones is a better quarterback than any quarterback, it means that quarterback is bad. If Daniel Jones is better than you, then you are an awful quarterback. No disrespect whatsoever, but they're backups for a reason. And I'm sorry, it's sad, but it's true. Singletary, he ended the game with 1 touchdown, and Tim Boyle threw a touchdown and an interception, and that's really all she wrote for the Giants in terms of scoring. Absolutely awful game, but I don't know what you expect from a team like the Giants. Of course, the Giants on the first play, they forced a fumble, but they had to punt the ball because they can't do anything on offense. The Ravens obviously got on the board first, then they got on the board again, and then the Giants, they answered with a touchdown to make the score 14-7, but I knew that this game was going to result in the Giants losing. The Ravens ended up making the score 21-7 to end the half, and then to end the third quarter, they made it 28-7, and then they added on another touchdown in the fourth quarter, and then picked off a pass to end the game. So great stuff for the Giants. This is beautiful. I'm actually really happy that they ended up losing because this will allow the Giants to have a better chance of drafting a quarterback in the first round. That's exactly what they need. That's exactly what they're going to get, I hope. And it could lead to some better signs in the future. Of course, however, it had to be just the worst day for football for me because if the Giants lose, I at least hope that the Cowboys could also lose, but this time they didn't. And now the Cowboys are sitting at 6-8, and I bet you their fans are going, "This is our year, we're gonna do this, yay, we're gonna win the Super Bowl," because they always do that. And Cooper Rush, he played very well in this game, 3 touchdowns, but again, this is the Panthers we're talking about. And Rico Dowdle ended up recording 149 yards on the ground, showing again another running back just completely outplaying Ezekiel Elliott. And Bryce Young, he seemed to have regressed right back to being Bryce Young and threw 2 interceptions in this game. He did throw for 1 touchdown, and he also threw for 219 yards. But again, just regressing back. He did rush for a touchdown, though, so that is something to talk about. But again, not really all that impressive. And Jalen Cocker ended up playing really well in this game. 110 receiving yards on 4 receptions and 1 touchdown to go along with that. But again, the Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb played very well in this game. 116 receiving yards and 9 receptions, along with a touchdown reception to go along with that. But again, just too easy of a game for the Cowboys. Just too easy of a game for them. And again, it's the Panthers. I don't know what you expected, but the Panthers are not a competent team for a reason. They're 3-11, and think about it. I mean, like, the Giants ended up losing to them, so they're not a very competent team. The Jets, they ended up actually closing out a game. They ended up winning against the Jaguars. And I will say it's against Mac Jones, so it's not really that's not really saying much. Mac Jones ended with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions on 294 yards in the air. And the Jaguars, they did have a chance to win the game in the end, but of course, like the game was tied 25-25. And then Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams decided to just rip off so many completions. Davante had a great game in this one. And Aaron Rodgers, he threw for 289 yards, 3 touchdowns. Davante Adams ended up getting 198 of those yards in the air, and also recorded 2 touchdowns to go along with that. And the game was again, even with this, the Jaguars, they still had a chance to win the game in the end, but Mac Jones threw a terrible interception to seal the loss for Jacksonville and seal the win for the Jets. This is the first game that they were actually able to close out in a while, and primarily because Mac Jones is not a competent quarterback. So not really much that needs to be said about this. They opened it up with, Jacksonville, they opened it up with a touchdown. Then the Jets answered right back with a touchdown. Then the Jaguars ended up answering that back with an interception. And then the Jets gave it right back in a punt. Then the Jags kicked a field goal. And then they kicked another field goal to make the score 7-13 in favor of Jacksonville. Then the Jets decided to respond to that field goal with, you guessed it, a field goal. Then Jacksonville decided to respond to that field goal with, you guessed it, a field goal. And then Aaron Rodgers finally woke up and threw a touchdown. And then both teams exchanged punts. Jacksonville ended up scoring a touchdown to make the score 22-17. And then the Jets ended up missing a field goal because of course they did. And let's see. Then the Jaguars punted it back. And then on 4 plays, the Jets ended up scoring another touchdown thanks to Davante Adams completing a 71-yard pass. Aaron Rodgers completing a 71-yard pass to Davante Adams to make the score 25-22. Then the Jags answered with a field goal, and then Davante and Aaron Rodgers answered it right back with a touchdown of their own. And now I will say that it wasn't Davante Adams that scored the touchdown, but it was Davante Adams that drove them down the field, and along with the help of Aaron Rodgers, of course. Or it should be the other way around. Aaron Rodgers drove them down the field with the help of Davante Adams. And they scored a touchdown. And then, of course, Mac ended the game with an interception because, of course, he did. So, good game from the Jets. That improves their record to 4-10. It doesn't mean anything. All it means is that they won a meaningless game in this season now because they're already eliminated from the postseason. And it's not really much that can be done, at least at this point. Now, next game on this list, the Commanders, they almost lost to the Saints in this one. They ended up winning, however, 20-19. Jaden Daniels played very well in this one. 2 touchdowns, 226 passing yards on the day. And for the Saints, they had to put 3 quarterbacks in this game. 3 of them. And most of them were really, really bad. I will say this. Most of them were not all that great. Actually, no, they did not. They only had to put 2 quarterbacks in this game. Excuse me. They ran a trick play, and the receiver ended up throwing a touchdown on that trick play. So, very good trick play coming in from them. But again, I knew that the Commanders were going to end up winning this game, and this game just went a little bit closer than what I thought. So, not really. I feel like it was a little bit of a, I don't know, not much of a worthy game to talk about. The Bengals going up against the Titans, that one was a pretty interesting one. Will Levis got benched in this one, only threw 89 yards in the air and threw 3 interceptions. Funny story, his ex was in attendance in this game, so if he had any chance of trying to get back with his ex, he lost it right there. And I know, you guys are thinking, oh, why would he do that? Trust me, when you know who she is, you would want to try and impress her as well, especially if you're a quarterback on that team. But did not play well. Ended up needing to replace him with Mason Rudolph, who played pretty solid. 21 of his 26 passes were completed, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. But we all know Joe Burrow. He's having an MVP caliber season if it wasn't for his team's record. He threw 3 touchdowns. He also threw 2 interceptions, but 271 yards in the air. And T. Higgins ended up receiving for 1 touchdown. Jamar Chase ended up recording 94 receiving yards on the day. And let's see. Chase Brown, he ended up recording 1 rushing touchdown and 97 yards on the ground. So, pretty good game coming in from the Bengals. It probably would have been a much more of a blowout had Will Levis continued playing in this game, but he had a very, very bad one. Now, Next game on this list, the Chiefs, they ended up playing the Browns in this game. Now, this is not a very good game because Patrick Mahomes ended up getting hurt in this one. So that's going to be very interesting. Now the 1 seed could potentially be up for grabs. I'm pretty sure that the Chiefs are going to inject Patrick Mahomes with every single painkiller that they have for at least 1 week, assuming he does not recover quick enough. But however, despite this, he did end up passing for 159 yards and threw for 2 touchdowns. Again, not a very good game coming in from Patrick Mahomes, but a win is a win, especially when you're going up against a quarterback like Jameis Winston. They won 21-7, mainly because Jameis Winston threw 3 interceptions in this game. Now, he did pray, and he did end up not throwing a pick six. And the reason why I mentioned this is because he said that he was going to pray to, I don't want to say his name just because I don't want to offend any of you guys, but he did say he was going to pray that he would not throw any more pick sixes, and lo and behold, he did not throw any pick sixes, but he threw 3 interceptions, and then they ultimately ended up losing this game because their quarterback situation is not that good to begin with. And the quarterback under Jameis Winston was Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who has only recorded nothing but interceptions. Horrible game coming in from the Browns, but not going to linger on that all too much. Also a very bad game coming in from the Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa, he did not play well against C.J. Stroud, especially in a game when C.J. Stroud did not play well either. C.J. only recorded 131 yards in the air and 2 touchdowns. And the 2 touchdowns are impressive. It's just the receiving yards. It wasn't like they were doing all that much. So this game was very, very winnable for the Dolphins. Tua just played really bad. Tua turned the ball over and threw 3 interceptions, threw 1 touchdown, showing off his noodle arm, and threw 196 yards in the air. Again, this is an extremely winnable game for Tua. This was an extremely winnable game for the Dolphins, but he had to show off the noodle arm at least once in this season. Tyreek Hill got 7 targets in this game, but only caught 2 of them. Not a very ideal use for Tyreek Hill in that game. And again, it was a bad game for the Dolphins. A game that they really, if they would have won this game, they would have been in better position to make the postseason, but they could not have afforded to drop this game. This was definitely the worst game that they could have dropped at the worst time. Next, the Bucks, they ended up playing the Chargers in this game. They ended up winning 40-17. And this was just a blowout from the jump. I mean, Baker Mayfield ended with 4 touchdowns. He threw an interception, but again, 40 points. Leading your offense to 40 points is leading your offense to 40 points. He also recorded 288 yards in the air. And for the Chargers side, Justin Herbert did not really play well in this game. And when Justin Herbert doesn't play well, chances are the Chargers are going to lose. The Eagles, they ended up beating the Steelers, so the 2 teams that I just cannot stand, the Eagles and the Cowboys, they ended up winning. So just not a very good day for me on football. Jalen Hurts ended up recording 290 yards in the air with 2 touchdowns. Saquon Barkley only recorded 65 yards, completely ending the debate on whether or not he's going to be an MVP player this season. Like I said, no good running back is more valuable than a good quarterback. And look at what the Eagles were able to do despite the fact that Saquon Barkley wasn't playing well in this game. They were still able to win rather comfortably. If Josh Allen plays bad, they lose. If Lamar Jackson plays bad, chances are they're also going to lose. And look at what happens when Saquon Barkley doesn't really play all that well. They still win. And let's see. They had 2, speaking of which, the Eagles, they said before that a problem that they had was receiving and passing. And in this game, A.J. Brown ended up recording 110 receiving yards, 1 touchdown, and Davante Smith ended up recording 11 receptions and 1 touchdown for 109 yards. So it seems like Jalen Hurts took that very, very personally. And Russell Wilson, he did not really play well in this game. 1 touchdown, 128 yards in the air. And that's just what happens with the Steelers sometimes. Sometimes they have great games, but sometimes they also have stinker games. I'm going to speed through the rest of these games just because we are low on time. Pats, they ended up getting wrecked by the Cardinals. That makes sense. The Cardinals ended up winning 30-17. Kyler Murray finally played very well in this game. And let's see. The Broncos, they ended up beating the Colts. And funny story, Jonathan Taylor, that all-pro running back that everyone just completely forgot about, he had a touchdown, but he let go of the ball before he was in the end zone. Players should start getting cut when they do this. I don't know how NFL players still manage to do this, but they do it. Bo Nix did not play well at all in this game. 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, so not a very good passer rating. But it's a good thing that he's playing Anthony Richardson, because Anthony Richardson is one of the most inaccurate quarterbacks in the NFL. He threw 2 interceptions, threw 0 touchdowns, and Jonathan Taylor played really well in this game, 107 yards on the ground. But again, he could have had a touchdown had he not been ignorant and dropped the ball. It's unbelievable that NFL players still do this. The Bills, this was the big game. The Bills, they ended up beating the Lions, and mainly because Dan Campbell just made an awful call, deciding to go for an onside kick early in the quarter, which made 0 sense, which gave the Bills great field position. I don't know why they ended up doing that. But regardless, Josh Allen, 2 touchdowns, 362 yards in the air, and he also ran for 2 touchdowns as well. Now, Jared Goff played immaculately in this game. 494 yards in the air, 5 touchdowns, but it just wasn't enough to go up against the Bills in this one. And on the Packers, Geno Smith ended up getting injured against the Seahawks. The Packers matched up against the Seahawks. And it really seems like there's a theory going around that Jordan Love is a Toyotathon merchant, which is crazy. But when you look at his stats before Toyotathon and then after Toyotathon, he is ridiculous. Like, he plays so much better during that time. It is so weird. Like, a lot of people are calling him a Toyotathon merchant, which is kind of funny, but it's like, it seems legit. And Jordan Love, he ended the game with 229 yards in the air with 2 touchdowns, and Josh Jacobs in this game ended with 94 yards on the ground as well as 1 touchdown. Seahawks, Geno Smith, having Geno Smith at quarterback isn't really the best news, but again, he ended up throwing for 149 yards, and he also got hurt. So Seahawks' chances might be done after this one. And going into some quick predictions, the Bears, they're going up against the Vikings. I'm picking the Vikings to win in this matchup tonight on Monday Night Football. And then the Falcons, they're going up against the Raiders. I'm going to pick the Falcons in this one. Kirk Cousins is going to have a phenomenal game. He's going to play out of his mind because this team is 1 win away from being a 500 team, and Kirk Cousins cannot stray too far away from being 500. I know this is going to happen. Kirk Cousins is going to ball out despite the fact that this is a primetime game. So that's all that I have to say on this 4th segment. So now we're going to go ahead and go into the final segment talking about the NBA Power Rankings. So I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.